Today I am going to start with a new lecture series on natural fibers, and broadly we can categorize natural fibers into three categories. First, plant fibers, second, animal fibers, and third is the mineral fibers. So, as the name indicate, plant fibers are largely obtained from plants, like cotton is there, jute is there, hemp is there, kenaf is there, and so on and so forth. Animal fibers are obtained from animal sources, and the most common examples for animal fibers would be silk and wool. And last is the mineral fibers. These fibers have the major composition of minerals, and the most common example one can remember is asbestos. Today I am going to start with the plant fibers. So, as I told you that as the name indicate, plant fibers are nothing but these are obtained from plant sources, and what we are going to learn in this lecture is that what exactly are plant fibers, what are their characters, how plant fibers are important to plants and for human beings, what are the different types of plant fibers that we can extract from plants, how they are prepared, how we prepare those fibers, how we treat those fibers in order to make them useful for commercial purposes, what are their structural characters, what is their chemical composition, what are the different chemical tests that we can perform for different types of fibers, and in the end we are going to discuss the applications of individual fibers. So, coming on to what are plant fibers. So, first, a layman's definition, which I have already told you, that these are the fibers that are obtained from plants or different parts of the plants. But if we further go into technicality of the definition of plant fibers, then these are nothing but single elongated thick walled plant cells which are having different characters. So, if we look into the characters of plant fibers, then obviously they are, since the name fiber is there, these are elongated, they have thick cell walls, and these cell walls are primarily the secondary thickenings that are present on the fibers. Fibers normally have tapering or pointed ends. They are generally sclerenchymatous in nature. Therefore, they are normally dead tissues, and for plants, if I say, they largely provide the mechanical support. Obviously, there are other uses of these fibers for the plants which we are going to discuss ahead. So, if we talk about the uses or importance of fibers for the plants, then as we discussed that they largely provide the mechanical support to the plant system. Whether they are present in the stem region, then they will provide the mechanical support to the tissues that are present in the stem. If they are present in the leaf part of the plant, then they are going to provide the mechanical support to the leafy tissues that are present. They also sometimes act as muscular tissue for the plants because of their contractile properties. Now, when we talk about the contractile properties of these fibers, then gelatinous fibers, which are commonly known as G fibers, they play a major important role in the contractile properties of the plant tissues. And because of these contractile properties, these fibers help in establishment of aerial roots. They also help in the coiling of the tendrils, which basically act as a support system for climbing of climbers or any kind of the plant which is not strong enough to withstand. Apart from these contractile or support properties, these fibers also help in opening up of the pods or the fruits. Now, if we look into the overall arrangement of the fibers in the pods or the fruits, then we will see that fibers are largely present in the exocarp and endocarp region of the fruit or the pod part. Now, this arrangement is not in a parallel manner, but this arrangement is in opposite direction, whether they are present obliquely or they are present in a longitudinal form, but these fibers are arranged in opposite direction. So, as the fruit or pod matures, the moisture gets evaporate and the fibers they start getting shrink. And because of their opposite orientation, the shrinkage of these fibers generate a tremendous amount of pressure on the walls of those fruits and pods, which eventually causes the opening of those pods and fruits. And sometimes in some plants, this opening is quite explosive, and this allows the seeds to fall far away from the parent plant, thereby help in the pollination of those plant material. Then apart from opening of pods, these fibers also have an important role in defense against or from herbivores. Now, these fibers, some of the fibers I will say, they are highly lignified, and when high lignification is present, then such fiber becomes very resistant toward digestion, and that is why they become least favorite for certain herbivores, and this is how they help in protecting the plant from the herbivores. So, these were the few of the uses or importance of fibers with respect to the plant itself. But if we talk about the importance of fibers for human beings, then they are used in wide variety of industries, like textile industry is one of the most common industry that uses huge amount of plant based fibers. Then we have construction industries, there automobile industries, there paper industries, there and so on, pharmaceutical industries there and so on and so forth. So, we can say that fibers for human beings have a large commercial and economic uses, thereby they have a high economical value as well. Now, if we look into how these fibers are initiated in the plants or how their growth is initiated, then we can broadly categorize them into the fibers that are initiated through primary tissues or primary growths, or fibers that are initiated through the secondary tissues or secondary growth. Now, if you look into the primary growth fibers, they are largely grow via procambium, and the most common examples are phloem fibers, largely phloem fibers of flax, and the fibers surrounding the vascular bundles in monocotyledons, such as in case of cereals, palms, reeds and even bamboos. Now, flax fiber, as we are going to discuss these fibers in detail, these are the phloem fibers, and they are largely present in the phloem region of the vascular tissues of the stem of the flax plant. The second category is the fibers that are initiated or differentiated from the secondary growth, and again these fibers are nothing but these are the cambial derivatives, and they largely occur as bundles, but they largely develop from the secondary tissues, like secondary phloem is there, or as single fibers, or various types of fiber groupings that are present in the wood region of the plant, that is the secondary xylem. And when such kind of fibers or the fibers which are present in the wood region or the xylem region of the plant part, we call them as xylem fibers. As we discussed that fibers have thick cell walls, and these thick cell walls are largely the secondary thickenings of the fiber walls, and depending upon the type of thickenings on the fiber walls, we have broadly two type of secondary thickenings. First one is the xylem type thickenings, and the second one is the gelatinous type thickenings. Now, xylem type thickenings are the most common in case of fibers, and not only these are found in fibers only, they are present on the other tissues or cells, like they are found in phloem region, they are found in xylem tracheids, they are found in xylem vessels. Such kind of thickenings are also found in the lignified parenchymatous cells. So, we can say that these type of xylem thickenings are not only present on fibers, but they are also present on the other cells or tissues present in the plant. Now, xylem thickenings are predominantly composed of cellulose, which constitute around 50% of the overall thickenings of the fiber. Apart from cellulose, these fibers or these thickenings are also composed of xylem and lignin, which constitute around 25% each in the overall fiber composition. Now, talking about the cellulose microfibrils, these fibrils have a helicoidal orientation and they are arranged in several layers in the thickenings that are present on the fibers, thereby giving a predominant support to the overall structure. The second type of thickening which we talk about is the gelatinous type of thickening, or such fibers we call them as gelatinous fibers or the G fibers, which are also responsible for the contractile or muscle like action for the plant. Now, as the name gelatinous indicates, they provide gel like features on drying, and like xylem fibers, they are mainly composed of cellulose, though the concentration of cellulose is very much high in comparison to the xylem fibers, and it constitutes around 80 to 90% of the total fiber composition. And unlike xylem fibers, lignin and xylem are completely absent or are present in very fine trace amounts in the gelatinous fibers. Again, the major difference from xylem fiber is the type of orientation of cellulose microfibrils. Now, these cellulose microfibrils are arranged in a parallel fashion in gelatinous fiber in comparison to a helical orientation that was present in the xylem type of thickenings. Now, we move on to the different types of plant fibers. Now, when we talk about the type of plant fibers, that generally represent from which part of the plant fibers are obtained. And under this, we have different types of plant fibers, like bast fibers are there. Bast is a common term that is used for phloem region. So, in other words or simple words, we can say that bast fibers are nothing but these are the fibers that are obtained from the phloem region of the plant. Then we have leaf fibers, which are largely obtained from the leaves. We have fruit fibers, which are obtained from fruits. We have seed fibers and stalk fibers. Now, if we look into the bast fibers or the phloem fibers, the most common examples are flax, which is obtained from the flax plant, that is Linum usitatissimum, or commonly known as ulci. Then we have jute, which is obtained from Corchorus olitoris or Corchorus capsularis. Then we have hemp, obtained from Cannabis sativa. We also have kenaf fibers, which are obtained from Hibiscus cannabinus, which is commonly known as Deccan hemp. Then fibers or bast fibers are also obtained from the banana tree, which is nothing but Musa acuminata or Musa balbisiana. So, these are the common examples of the bast fibers. Moving on to the examples of leaf fibers, we have sisal, that is Agave sicilana, henequen, that is Agave phorcoides. Leaf fibers are also obtained from pineapple, that is Ananas commosus, abaca, that is Musa textilis, or fig plant, which is nothing but Furcaria andina. As I told you that fibers are also obtained from the fruits, and the most common example one can remember is of coconut, that is Cocos nucifera. Then fruit fibers are also obtained from acai fruits, that is Eutrepo oleracea plant. Coming on to the seed fibers, and the most common example, obviously we are going to discuss one of the seed fibers in detail as well, and the most common example is cotton, which is obtained from different Gossypium species. Then we have capoke fibers, Cebia pitendra, then Brazil nut, which is Bertholletia excelsa, then stalk fibers, which are obtained from the stalks of the plant. And in this we have example of bamboo, Bambusa vulgaris, barley, that is Hordeum vulgare, wheat, Triticum aestivium, bigase, that is sugarcane, Saccharum officinarum. So these are the examples of the plants from where we can get fibers from their different parts. Now we will start with the discussion on the flax fibers. Now as we discussed that flax fibers are nothing but these are the bast fibers. So they are extracted from the bast or the phloem region of the stem of the flax plant, that is Linum uctatissimum, which is commonly known as ulci, belonging to family Liniaceae. So as you can see in the diagram, the pink band which is labeled as bundles, these are nothing but these are the bundles of flax fibers. This is a representation of a transverse section of the stem of the flax plant. Now from these bundles we transform these bundle, we extract these fibers from phloem region and we convert them into the commercial grade fibers. Now if we look into the usage of the flax fibers, perhaps these are one of the oldest fibers that are being used by mankind primarily for developing yarn and cloths, and evidence have shown that flax fibers were used since prehistoric times, which were more than 30,000 years ago, and their usage evidence have been found in Desiduzuana caves, which are in Georgia. And in the second image you can just see the microscopical image of a flax fibers, wherein you can see twists are there in the structure, and this twisting basically helps in spinning of these fibers and they help in converting these fibers into the yarn. Now if we look into the preparation of flax fibers, it has two major steps. First is the planting or the cultivation of flax plants, and second is the harvesting of those flax plants. And again this harvesting is further divided into three major steps, wherein we first pull out the plant and form the bands, then we subject those plants to threshing and eventually retting. So for planting the flax plants, the propagation all starts during the early spring season, and the planting density plays an important role in deciding the overall quality of the flax fibers. And when we talk about the density should be optimum, and it is believed that 1600 to 1800 seeds per meter square has been found as an optimal density for optimal yield of the fiber. Now if we further increase or decrease the density, I will say, if we sparsely sow these seeds, then they will allow the plants to undergo branching, and when branching occurs, this decreases the overall length of the plant and eventually the length of the fiber as well, and therefore optimal density of planting the flax seeds should be there. Now when the plant is around 3 to 4 months old, then the actual harvesting starts. The harvesting time is important because if we allow the crop to grow for longer period, this leads to the increase in lignification of the fiber. Now as the lignification increases, the elasticity or the flexibility of the fiber decreases, but its stiffness increases, and this has an overall impact on the quality of the fiber. So one should be very critical regarding the harvesting time of the crop. So during harvesting, the first step, as we discussed, was the plant pulling and bundle formation. Now pulling can be done manually or by using machines, or mechanical methods can be adopted, and we know that we have large mowers or harvesters nowadays which can pull the plant and convert them into the bundles. Second step is the threshing, and it largely includes the separation of the seeds from the stem region of the flax. Now again, this can be done mechanically or by manually. Mechanically, again, combines are there, combined harvesters are there, which just pull out the plant, convert them into the bundles and separate the seeds simultaneously. Whereas in manually can be done by beating or by heckling. Now beating is nothing but we just beat the bundle on a stone in order to remove the seeds, but this process again sometimes make the fiber fragile or break the fiber into small pieces. Whereas heckling is a labor oriented process wherein we use heckles. Heckles are nothing but metallic combs from which those bundles are passed, and during that passing process seeds are separated from the stems. Third and the most important step is the retting. Now retting is a step wherein fibers are separated or removed from the stem region, thereby removing the pectin or hemicelluloses which binds those fibers into with the stem or the other tissues present in the stem. Now retting is largely done manually or mechanically. In manual we have three different methods: water retting is there, dew retting is there, and enzymatic retting. And second, as we discussed, mechanical methods are nothing but the machine methods which are not widely used. Now coming on to the water retting method, perhaps this is the oldest retting method used for the preparation of flax seeds. In this, what we do is we collect the bundles from the field and submerge those flax stem bundles under water for specified period of time. Now during this submergence, fermentation occurs, and with the help of the fermenting bacteria, the pectin and hemicelluloses are degraded by those bacteria, thereby releasing the fibers from those bound conditions. But there are certain limitations of water retting, that it causes water pollution because large amount of water is used, and there is a great chance of crop rotting, which has a direct impact on the overall yield of the fiber. Now if we look into the water retting process, the duration for which the fibers are submerged under water is very critical, because if we allow the fibers to get submerged in water for longer duration, it will cause the rotting of the stem of the flax, and that will have a negative impact on the overall yield of those fibers. And this process is generally considered as expensive, though this process is rapid in comparison to the other processes. Second is the dew retting method, and nowadays this method is most widely used. This is again a natural process wherein the bundles are spread in the field itself, and the fermentation occurs largely by the soil microorganisms naturally. But this type of method largely depends upon the environmental in terms of temperature and humidity conditions, and the amount of lignification that is present in the fibers. Dew retting is generally considered that for the fibers which have low lignification content, and the environmental conditions include low humidity and high temperatures. There are certain precautions one has to take while performing the dew retting in order to prevent loss of the yield. Over wetting or the fibers which are having high moisture content should always be avoided for the dew retting process, because this will again will lead to fungal growth on the straws that will have an impact on the quality of the fibers. Then these bundles should be overturned twice after a specified period of time, because this will help in proper air circulation between the straws. Moreover, it will also help in uniform retting throughout the bundle. And drying is generally carried out up to 17 to 18% of the overall humidity that is present in the bundle. Now there are few advantages of dew retting, that is, it is cheaper than water retting and it causes less environmental pollution in comparison to water retting. But coming on to the limitations of dew retting, the fiber is always considered inferior in terms of its mechanical and physical properties in comparison to the fibers that are obtained by the water retting process, for obvious reason, because one has to be very critical while going for the dew retting process. It may also cause higher contamination of weeds because the bundles are spread onto the field itself, and there are chances that they may get contaminated with the weeds, which will eventually cause an impact or make that fiber non-suitable for textile industry. Then sometimes microorganisms also have an impact on the color and texture of the overall fiber. So if the fibers are allowed to rot for longer duration, the microorganisms may impact, they may darken the color of the fibers. So friends, in the continuing lecture, we will discuss other methods of retting followed by its composition and uses. Thank you.